And when it comes to lease renewals, obviously with any lease, usually a tenant has a built-in option that requires them to give notice prior to them leaving. And that's usually, 6, 9, 12 months in advance. And that was always a mechanism that would drive tenants out into the marketplace to at least look at some other options before deciding whether they were going to renew or not. And so that's usually what drove activity. It was a built-in part of our system that was kind of essential, to the whole mechanism. But, back when things were good, landlords could afford to be a lot more, as I said, draw a line in the sand in terms of what they were asking from their tenants. And usually it was a longer term commitment, usually 5 years, 7 years, whatnot. They usually went back and said, hey, it's not going to be less than what you're paying now, and it's likely going to be more. And they felt confident enough making those demands, knowing that the market was strong enough that if they lost a tenant, they could backfill it pretty quickly with that. Obviously, that all came to a screeching halt when COVID. There was a real fear, and rightly so, from landlords that as the months dragged along and these tenants weren't utilizing their space, that as these leases were going to renew, the tenants would just call up and say, hey, listen, the keys are in the mail, but I'm not removing. I'm going to wait this out, and maybe I'll take some space later. So there was some real fear with, and what we were advising the landlords was, listen, just triage the situation. Do not lose a tenant right now, because we don't know when the market will be back again to backfill that space. So landlords started getting far more flexible in terms of their demands on renewal. And a lot of it was, hey, forget about the 5-year, whatever. Let's go year to year. Let's go month to month if we have to. We'll keep your rent at the same. We'll reduce your rent. Tell us what your pinch points are, and we can work around it. But please, dear God, that when COVID was done, that was kind of the end of that phase. But that's when obviously the whole work from home came into place. And so again, landlords would walk through their buildings and figure out, oh my God, at least, a couple of days a week, my parking lot's empty. And even though the tenants are continuing to pay on the space, maybe it's just a matter of time before I get that call, from my largest tenant saying, we've decided to go full remote. And so they continue that mentality of just triaging the situation, keeping tenants at all cost, and doing whatever deal they could to keep the tenant, in the space. To tenants, I would say, it can't hurt to go out and look at the marketplace, because even in, multiple buildings on the same street, there's different landlords that are in different have different mentalities, and some are a lot more aggressive than others. You might find that if you go out, you can upgrade your space with more amenities. That's very important nowadays. If I'm going to lure my employees back to the office full time, I got to have bait to do that. So nicer office space, amenitized buildings, that my employees are going to want to come to. Or conversely, you might go out there and think you're getting a good deal, but when you survey the market, you can find some landlords that say, hey, listen, I've had this space now for a year sitting there. We'll do 6 months of free rent. We'll do the build out you'll want. We'll make it as nice as you can, and we'll keep you at the same rate that your current landlord is paying. So I think tenants and business owners are settling into the fact that this is kind of the new norm. For the landlords, I would continue to have an open mind of flexibility, especially for your existing tenants. If you can do what you can to keep them in their space, talk to them, even a year out, and get their sentiments on what they think they're going to do. And if you have to continue to make those deals of shorter term deals and, keeping their rent stable and kind of, helping them, absorb, some of the the pitfalls of COVID that we're still dealing with today, that you should continue to be, as aggressive as possible. And for the tenants, I would say, it's a tenant's market right now. Don't be afraid to go out and look at some different options, if nothing more than to have some ammunition to bring back to your existing landlord, and renegotiate, your existing situation. So.